My name is Renita Wycliffe-Lewis, and I'm the chair of the Park Forest Planning and Zoning Commission. And we really appreciate your presence this evening. At this time, we will start our conversation, our regular Plan Commission meeting, and then we will ask the village manager to come and speak, introduce the Plan Commissions and the public hearing portion of this meeting. So I call this meeting to order. Do we have a review of the minutes? Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye. No abstentions. Are there any petitions? At this time, are there any members of the audience who have business that they would like to talk to the Plan Commission about that's not on our public hearing? Thank you. New business?
Ready to roll?
Ready for you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me back there? We've got a bit of a shift in our plans for this evening. We are going to hold public hearing this evening as far as public comment with regard to recreational cannabis. Probably within the last hour and a half or so, we learned that our staff liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission is dealing with probably an imminent loss in her family and is not with us. And so our thought is, from a staffing standpoint, the most articulate presentation and discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission would come from the staff liaison. Absent that tonight, what we plan to do is facilitate the public hearing portion. And so with that, we're going to open up the floor for public comments. I believe that there are rules that were on the table when you came in as far as what public comment is, what it's, how much you can provide to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and trying to be respectful of everybody else's time. Be mindful with your comments. Please don't expect that the Planning and Zoning Commission or any other village officials are going to give you a response. Really what we're looking for is feedback from the community, in particular on the issue of sales of recreational cannabis in the community. I think that's going to be one of the driving factors in the entire decision-making process from the Planning and Zoning Commission standpoint and the recommendation that goes to the village board. And then that public comment and the public sentiment is going to be a driving force in the deliberations that are facilitated by the mayor and the board of trustees. So above and beyond this evening's public hearing components, we will have to reconvene and look at the numbers that are in attendance tonight. We're looking at pushing back the deliberations of the Planning and Zoning Commission, ideally to the second Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the month of October, and that would be October 22nd. It's more than likely that that dialogue is going to take place in here, unless there's any kind of a conflict with Freedom Hall's calendar. We'd have to check that, and if there is some kind of a change, we will let the public know. Above and beyond what the Planning and Zoning Commission's deliberations include and the public comment that's provided by the public, please be mindful, tonight is not the last opportunity for the public to weigh in with their perspective. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a statutory board that provides support and recommendations to the mayor and the board of trustees. What we would expect to happen coming out of these deliberations is a recommendation that would go to the mayor and board of trustees. From there are standard rules of procedure that the mayor and board of trustees follow, especially with an ordinance revision or implementation, and that would include first reading, where nothing but alerting the public that here's what the ordinance is looking like. Then there would be rules meeting discussion, where there's a full deliberation and understanding of what the recommendations are, answering of any questions that the mayor and the board might have of staff and or the recommendations that have come from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then there's a third meeting where we would have final reading. So what all of that means is subsequent to tonight and then the follow-up deliberations, ideally October 22nd or when that secondary meeting takes place, there will be 3 other meetings, most likely in the boardroom of Village Hall, that would allow for additional public comment for the folks who maybe couldn't make it tonight or have had the opportunity to listen to other folks and maybe want to weigh in again. But I think this is the first of probably 4 different opportunities where our residents are going to be able to give feedback. If you know of anybody, my final comment would be, if you know of anyone who could not be with us tonight, explain those parameters to them. Remind them that they can submit written comments, whether it's to drop it off at Village Hall, whether it's in the village manager's office or in the Department of Economic Development Planning. They can submit an email. And I would tell the public, when all else fails, if you're looking for a conduit to be able to have your voice heard, contact me at Village Hall. I'm the village manager for our community. You can find my email address on our website, and my phone number is 748-1129. That's also noted on the village website. So with that, I think we would get underway with public comment. Ideally, what we're asking for is people to come forth, offer their comment, limit them to 5 minutes. We'll thank you for your comments, and then we'll listen to the rest of the dialogue that's offered by your fellow residents. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing for comments. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you wish to make public comments during the public hearing that is scheduled for this evening, please be aware of the following guidelines. Please sign your name on the sign-in sheet and note your intention to speak. All visitors wishing to make public comment must keep their comments to no longer than 5 minutes each. The time limit may be reduced to 3 minutes if many people wish to speak. In order to allow everyone the opportunity to speak, if you have comments to make that are substantially similar to something that has already been said, we would appreciate it if you would offer or defer the statements already made. The public hearing is not an opportunity for give and take between the public and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Please make your comments in the form of a statement. When the public hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment taken from the audience. And since tonight, we have an issue tonight, as our village manager, Tom Mick, has stated, October the 22nd will be the second meeting. So at this time, I don't have the sign-up sheet. You want me to get it? Okay. Yes, please. But for those who wish to make comment, we have microphones on both sides of the aisle. If you signed up, please come forth. You're more than welcome. And then on another note, I want to just thank you again for your presence this evening, and also to let you know that the comments that will be made are the comments from the heart of the people who are here to make those comments. People don't think the same, so please respect other people's opinions. We appreciate it. On the sheet that I have before me, I have Troy and Carolyn Herron. Troy, would you come forward, please?
Good evening. I am by no means a professional speaker, so please forgive me if I stutter or I'm actually very nervous. But I wanted to state my opinion of me, my wife, and our family. We've been residents of Park Forest going on 29 years. Very proud to say that. And I realize there's two sides to every coin, and what I'm about to say is just my opinion, and I do respect the opinion of others. But I wanted a chance to say that when I heard that the state of Illinois made cannabis legal for recreational purposes, I had concerns because they also made conceal and carry legal. And almost every business I go into has a sticker on the front door saying that I cannot bring a weapon in. The laws do not seem to keep up with what the government says we could do. I know there was a lot of issues with FMLA. I know there's a lot of issues with conceal and carry. In my line of work, I deal with looking over resumes and helping to hire people. And when they made this legal, I had asked my employers, what's our stance on this? And they told us what their stance was, and they also told us what the industry says. And the industry says that, no, zero tolerance. So we're having issues with what the government tells us is legal, and we're having issues with what our employers tell us they're going to accept. So even though it's legal, there's a zero tolerance on the employment side. And my concern is, going forward, that what I've seen personally is, if you get into an altercation with a fellow employee, or if you get into an accident, say on a Ford truck, they send you to a drug test. If you test positive, they put you in a program, and then you have to go ahead and you have to get random drug testing. And if you test positive again, they terminate you. That seems to be the industries, for the blue collar industry I work in, that seems to be the standard. So my concern is, if we say this is legal and we offer it in our community, there are going to be people that eventually are going to be unemployed. And I see a lot of vacant houses over the last 29 years. I see houses that aren't vacant, that look vacant. And my concern is, if we make this gung-ho for everybody, we're going to get people that are unemployed, and the housing and the neighborhoods are going to look worse and worse and worse. And as a village board member, if you need to make a vote, if it's not okay for this industry or this business to be next door to your house, then it's not okay for it to be in the community. If we're looking for a quick dollar, I say in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, I think we can make a quick dollar on taxes. It's a good industry for a quick dollar. But if we look at the long-term issues, if we end up with more residents in Park Forest that are unemployed, I think it's a bad decision. And like I had previously just said, if it's not okay for it to be next door to your house, then it's not okay for it to be in our community. That's all. And like I said, when I started, it's just a matter of opinion. And I would fight for the next guy that had a different opinion. I appreciate the fact that we live in a democracy. I think everybody does have a voice. But this is just my opinion and what I've seen in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your opinion, sir. Next on my list, I have Keitha Moore.
Hello, how are you?
Good evening.
I've been in this town for 40 years. I've raised my grandchildren here and my children here. The millennials are taking over, okay? That's our future. And I see that this is going to be a good business proposition for our town, for the surrounding villages around us. And I also think it's a good idea because I don't want to promote this saying it's okay for everyone to smoke cannabis, all right? But I had an aunt who recently passed away. And the only way she was able to get her peace was from cannabis. So we gave it to her in the hospital, and she died with it. So she died in peace. And she also died without the pain that she felt every day, that I watched her suffer with. I have fibromyalgia myself, so I'm a cannabis smoker. So I don't really mind who is again or against it. But try it before you knock it. My mother always told me that. Don't kick somebody off the block before you let them live with you for a minute. So I feel like our town is open. We have open arms in Park Forest. We always have. We always will. And I thank God for it. And I hope it comes and that it'll be successful here and that we can all get along together with it and make our business grow. And I'm willing to do whatever I can as a citizen of Park Forest to make this happen.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. And please forgive me if I mispronounce the name. I believe it's Tabitha, and the last name starts with a K. Middle initial is a K, and I'm not sure if that's Hall. Is that you?
My name is Tasha K. Smalley.
Tasha Small,
Yes.
thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I bring good tidings from my mother who couldn't join us today, and she sent me with some notes that she'd like for me to address during this time. My mother wanted you to know that she has used marijuana in many different ways for the past 61 plus years. There are many different uses for marijuana. It can be used to relieve anxiety. It's a pain reliever for people who have cancer, who have glaucoma, who have anorexia or bulimia or chronic pain disorders. It is not like opioids or fentanyl that will make someone wake up in the middle of the night to go do something strange for some change. If you don't have marijuana, you're not going to get up and do those types of things. It's natural, it's easy to plant, it is sustainable. There are many different ways that it can be manufactured. It can be just grown from the earth, harvested, and smoked. There are oils, there are moon rocks, there are edibles. When people envision how it looks when people utilize marijuana, they often visualize a vapor. And that's not necessarily so. It can be used in so many different ways for people who are in such dire pain that it's the only way that it can relieve pain, healthily and holistically. And we support the ability for people to manufacture it, like grow it in their yards or bring it to our community, because it will be of benefit to us. So I wanted to leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hall. Anna M. Mason?
Manson.
Manson.
Good evening. I guess it's more of a concern than anything. I'm not opposed to those who want to indulge. That's everybody's right to do whatever. But my concern is where this or facility or facilities would be located within the village and how much traffic is that going to bring. I happen to be 39 years at Area J and found out maybe 3 or 4 years or so ago that the building at the end of our block is owned by CHA. And we always thought it was the senior building for Park Forest. And since they made that transition and they brought people out, we've seen a lot of traffic of people throwing debris in our yards, throwing cigarettes around. There's been a couple of incidents in our veteran park that they go over there, smoke their marijuana and all that. So my concern would be, where are we going to locate this facility at? And what kind of traffic is it going to bring into the village? And am I going to be able to feel safe and comfortable that I'm not going to have people getting off the bus and going somewhere and they're walking through my particular neighborhood, dropping things, doing whatever, or subjecting me to inhale what they're smoking? So that would be my concern, is where this would be located at within the village.
Thank you, Ms. Manson. Antoinette M. Davis.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, Ms. Davis.
It's not a concern, it's more of a comment for the south suburbs here. I've been living out here over 40 years now, and I have seen the south suburb go from a thriving community to where we are now. I'm not saying that we're not thriving, but we definitely could do better. There's a lot of negativity around marijuana, and I just want to let you guys know it's not a negative. Before 1935, marijuana was actually legal in the state, in the United States. We used it for legal tender. We used to pay taxes with it. So marijuana itself is a thriving plant. I hear people worrying about coming to the community, what type of traffic. The cannabis industry is a corporation. It is ran by people of business. You have to have license to be able to work in the dispensaries. You have to have all type of license if you're going to grow it. And people have to take tests to pass to get these licenses. So you're going to have people that are licensed to sell this product. And from my understanding and doing my research, you can't have a dispensary that is located near a school or near a residential. So you don't have to worry about that traffic of unwanted people coming in your neighborhood. Currently, right now, you're not allowed to smoke in these dispensaries. You can't test those products. So people won't be around here trying to test products because that's not legal. The purpose of the marijuana, as was pointed out several times, is really a healing product. It helps people in so many different ways. It's not just, you do have those that do it recreational, but the purpose of marijuana has always been for healing and medicinal. So with that in mind, I think this will give our community a chance to thrive again. We will have jobs. We won't have those unwanted homes in our area. This will bring business to our community. And I think that's really what we need, and I think all of the south suburbs should see that. We do have dispensaries in Homewood. Homewood is thriving just fine with those dispensaries. We don't hear any negative around unwanted traffic. They already have, I think, 2 dispensaries there. So it is something that we should really be concerned about. We should really think about. It's bringing business to our community. So I just wanted to let that be known. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Davis. Mr. Leo Kershaw.
Actually, I'm one of these people, you probably can hear me without a microphone. That's just who I am. I've lived here in Park Forest most of my life, and yes, I do smoke marijuana, and I would like to see a dispensary here in the town. I know a lot of things have been said that I wanted to say, so I'll do the best to add to what's been said. And that is, I am suffering from rheumatoid arthritis. I've been on disability for over 30 years. And I'll tell you what, smoking pot gives me an appetite. Smoking pot assists me with the pain. It assists me to go to sleep. Now, I know there's pros and cons, and I'm not here to debate the pros and the cons. But what I do want to say is, no matter where the dispensary is put, a town is going to make some money. They're going to get a tax revenue. We are a town that's landlocked. We have been probably about the whole time I've lived here in Park Forest, since about 1960, is when I remember moving back to Park Forest. I was too young before that. But anyways, the point being is, I'm not trying to say, hey, we should have the dispensary or it's going to be next door in the town next door. But as was just mentioned, it is in Homewood. It's been working for more than 2 years. Of course, that's a medical marijuana dispensary at this point in time. But it's working. And it does bring in tax revenue. And we do, being the fact that we're landlocked, what business do we have? The downtown, unfortunately, for whatever the reasons may be, has not worked out as well as I think most of us would have liked to have seen over the last 3-4 decades. It is what it is, and I know we're doing everything we can to get business to come in there. As for bringing an element into this town that nobody wants to see because of maybe garbage things thrown in their yard, or loud radios in a car, or whatever the case may be, it's already going on. You know, I mean, whether people come here to Park Forest to purchase, or they go next door to Olympia Fields, or they go to Homewood, they're gonna purchase it. And as for the houses that need to be torn down due to disrepair, that's just continuing. I don't even think that has anything to do with this particular situation. But the point being is we have an opportunity to make some money for the village. We have an opportunity to add to the money that's needed to balance the budget. And I think this is a viable opportunity for the village to take a look at, the board and the members, okay? Because as for the elements that we don't want to see here, the negative element, they're here. The gangs have been here for years. Okay? My son graduated from Rich East. I graduated from Rich East in 1972. He graduated in 2003. The gangs were in the school then. The gangs were trying to get him recruited, and I don't know how he was able to do it, but he was able to stay clear. And I'm grateful for that. I know easily it could have been the other way, but the point being is we have an opportunity to learn and grow with a new industry, and it's going to be here. And the talk that I hear, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think as more and more states get on board with medical marijuana, and then maybe converting to not only medical but recreational use, I think we're going to see that federal law change. And I think that will then allow doctors to be a little more comfortable, you know, with their license and their practice, and allowing medical marijuana patients to still get the card and be able to go get the prescription. Because I see a pain management doctor, I'll close with this. He wants me on medical marijuana. He wants me off the pain medication I'm on. And he goes, I want you to look into that. And I said, finally I went to him and I said, okay, great, let's do this. He said, oh no, I'm not going to write the scripts. I'll give you a list of doctors. You pick one of them and go to them. Why? Because he's afraid, my guess is he's afraid he'll lose his license, his practice, and he can go to jail. And no man or woman is going to put out the money it takes to become a doctor and become a professional to lose it over something like this. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comment. At this time, Ms. Julie Baker. And thank you, Ms. Baker, for being patient.
Of course, everybody has this. I agree with most of what was said on the positives for the village. One of the other positives that I don't think has been mentioned is that currently, if you want it, you can get it. But it's not necessarily safe. And there are so many conditions that the medical card does not cover that it is beneficial. So I feel that if we have the dispensary here in the village, it provides an avenue that is safe for adults that need it or adults that want it. I personally very rarely use, but I have in the past for migraines, for anxiety. But I can honestly say that I wouldn't be their best customer. But I do know that I have 2 daughters who would be very good customers because of their anxiety and their inability to speak in public. So I'm here for them. So I think that I worry because they don't qualify for the medical card. And I worry that anything that they do use could be the last thing that they use because the streets, drugs are not safe. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. John E. Lester.
Good evening. I'm in, just off the, at the very beginning, I want to let you know I'm in favor of marijuana. And I think the question that you asked is, do we have favor of marijuana? And Park Forest need a income source. And people are concerned about where it's going to be sold. Y'all will issue a business license, I'm sure. And every business will be in a business location that is zoning for business. So I don't think people need to be worried about where they're going to be living next door to them. If you're living next door to a business zone, that's probably where it's going to be located at. So all I'm in favor of, because if we don't sell it, Chicago Heights right next door, Olympic Field right next door, Richmond Park is right next door. I don't have to get in my car, I can just walk over and get it. So we might as well sell it at Park Forest.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Aaron Gonzalez.
The first thing I would like to mention is that I've been hearing a lot of negatives and positives about marijuana, and I agree with. I am aware of their concerns, but I feel like there's one benefit that nobody seems to be noticing. In the 1920s and Prohibition era of America, when alcohol was legalized, that didn't stop people from drinking at all. In fact, crime got way worse if it hadn't been legalized. So I feel that if we had the dispensary in Park Forest, it would lower crime rates, even if marginally. Because I can guarantee you that gang members cannot compete with corporate organization. So I feel that that marijuana would be beneficial for lowering crime rates, not just through selling it, but also through the fact that if they're able to get it legally, why bother having to go through the risk of not only getting something that could be questionable, could be fatal, but also other people will be like, why are we doing this illegally? You can just literally pop over to the dispensary around the corner and, get some weed there. So, I just wanted to bring that up. I feel that a lot of suspect people, would most likely turn away from crime if the dispensary was here, and a lot of the gangs would at least go down at the very least marginally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So it appears that I have completed the list, but I do know that some people have come in after the meeting started who may not have had an opportunity to sign the speaking sheet. And if there's anyone here at this time who would like to speak, please come forward and state your name. Will you take turns? We have a mic on each side.
Hello, my name is Dennis McMurray. I just wanted to point out a few things and maybe give a suggestion or two.
Your name again?
Dennis McMurray.
McMurray?
Correct.
Thank you.
The state of Illinois evidently is getting ready to be taxing 25%, I believe it is, on the recreational marijuana. And they've given an allowance to the municipalities of 3% to tax on the marijuana, which brings that to 28. again, something just I wanted to point out that in order to make us competitive and to make this a more viable option for a person or people, a company, to grow it from the seed and to take it all the way to the counter, I would suggest humbly that we not take that full 3% and we undercut that in order to achieve the best goals and become more attractive to whatever businesses may or may not want to come to this area to sell. I'll give you an example. When they first started the recreational marijuana tax in Colorado, they allotted $40 million off of what they would have perceived to have made $60 million. The first year, they made $80 million in tax revenue. They gave the 40 to the schools, and this is now the 4th year that they will be having the marijuana tax in Colorado. This year, they've already made $300 million in taxes off of the marijuana tax. So again, when it comes to medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, we don't have to necessarily sit up here and argue to the point of who's going to buy it or if they're going to buy it or if there's going to be a store or somebody that wants to start a business. However, we need to seriously take a look at different tactics in order to make this a viable place for people to come. And in my opinion, humbly, that would be undercutting everybody else's taxes because we're going to get the money anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon.
Good evening, my name is Kiana Hughes. I am a founding member and the education director for Chicago Normal, and that is the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. I'm also the owner of Elevated Education LLC, and those two organizations have been, we are 2 of 26 companies that have been state approved to administer cannabis education. So I think someone here mentioned earlier that there was some testing that had to go on and different things that you have to do to attain your licenses. Chicago Normal was extremely active, going back and forth, staying in constant communication with our legislators as they were writing this bill, and in making sure that we have social equity components in the bill that we have. And so what that means is that people who are in communities that have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs and by cannabis arrests are allotted certain benefits and waivers and different help in order to have cannabis businesses and to apply for cannabis licenses. The city of Park Forest, the village of Park Forest has been designated as one of those disproportionately impacted areas. And so what that means is that people who have lived here for 5 out of the last 10 years, or those whose family or themselves have been affected, whether it's through direct incarceration because of cannabis arrests or cannabis charges or things of that nature, these are the people who fall under the category of social equity applicants. And so it's really important that as the only town in Rich Township who has this designation of being a disproportionately impacted area, we really have to take advantage of what that means for us as a community in the Southland. What that means is that any company that comes here, we can hold their feet to the fire and say, well, first of all, they get points and they get to keep their license for hiring people from disproportionately impacted areas. So this is an opportunity for the village of Park Forest to really be a catalyst and to be a hub for a training ground for these people to come in and to hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, if you are going to come here, you have to hire people from Park Forest to work here. I've had some really encouraging talks with the village in terms of being able to provide education for the people of Park Forest to be able to really take advantage of these jobs. We also do expungement fairs and other things, other town halls and things in the community to make that happen. And so I want to encourage anyone who's trying to make this decision, whether to opt in or opt out, by all means opt in. It's not just about the cannabis. It's about all the other businesses that will also be attracted to the area because of that. And in worrying about security and all that, I can tell you, I've spent the last, I don't know, however many months since June now, eating this law and figuring out what's what and writing this curriculum. The area immediately surrounding a cannabis dispensary is going to be one of the safest areas in the community, period. The amount of surveillance and monitoring and cameras and equipment and security that is required of them to even get their license is bank level security. So you really don't have to, and there's no loitering around a cannabis dispensary. This is not like a liquor store. This is not going to be like what you've seen when you went to Colorado or LA. It's not going to be like any of that. The state of Illinois, we got the highest grade in the country for our medical cannabis program, and they have absolutely modeled a lot of what's happening in the recreational bill according to that program. They're not quick to lose that designation, and we are currently being the model for how to do cannabis legalization, adult use legalization right, and how to do it in a way that is socially just and equitable to the people who have been harmed, and that is going to be safe and just a good situation for everyone. So I just encourage you to look deeper into it, and to also not get swayed by a lot of the myths and a lot of the misperceptions that happen around cannabis, because it is a lot of reefer madness and fear mongering that's going on, and there are companies that are paying a lot of money to keep those myths in play and keep them out in the communities, and trying to be honest and trying to scare communities like ours from getting from having the businesses in our communities so that we don't thrive and so that we stay in the dumps, kind of where we are. So just want to make that point. Thank you all.
Good evening, my name is Therese Goodrich, and I am a 60-year resident of Park Forest. I've seen many things come and go, but I think that I'm not making any judgment about people using cannabis, but I think that we need to be prepared, and I think that we probably have one of the best places to start looking at for zoning and to be prepared. For new prospect like this, I think that we ought to look at Western Avenue, and probably Western Avenue and 26th Street, where we now have a wonderful grassy vacant area. Anyone who is going to be able to come in to sell, as the other lady said, they already have all the laws, all the requirements, all the statutes, everything is there. Do you know that everybody that is going to be selling this has to have a camera that can read the license plates of every car that comes into their parking lot? There are all kinds of security laws already that go with this. I think what we need to do, we need to find the best place, the most popular place, the place where there's going to be a lot of traffic, and zone that for even if there's 2 or 3 along there on Western Avenue. There's no schools, there's no churches, there's a railroad track, and there's 26th Street, and I think that except for maybe Garden House or something like that, that might be the closest building to there. But I think that what we need to do is plan ahead, plan how even if we have to do curb cuts, we need to make it as easy as possible for those people to legitimately come in, set up nice looking shops, have all the security that they need, and believe me, the state has already thought of all of that. So if we want to benefit Park Forest, I think that we need to be the first ones out there, find the best place possible where we can put these shops and help them get started, and we will benefit from that.
Yes, my name is Benjamin Armstrong, and I would just like to speak about
how do we spread the prosperity to all? And the key point should be to limit the amount a grower can grow. And so, say you have so instead of having 100 growers growing, say, 10,000 pounds, we have 10,000 growers growing 100 pounds. If you did it this way, you would grow the prosperity to all people, and or not to all people, but to a much wider proportion of the population. If you only have a few growers making all the money, it's going to be same old, same old. If you have a widespread use of a limit the amount a person can grow and sell to the government, and the government should be the only one selling it. And that's where the government should make their money, is selling it. They should be the only one selling it. But let the growers be multiples, you know. Let that be, that way we could have widespread prosperity over the use of marijuana. Right now, I don't think they are thinking about this in the way I'm speaking. Limit the amount you can grow and have much more growers. You know, 20,000 growers making 100,000 a year. That's about how much you would make if you could only sell 100 pounds. Say you got $1,000 a pound, the grower. That would be much better than having 100 growers making tens of millions of dollars. You see, it is a key economic principle that would actually make prosperity multiply. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Armstrong. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak?
Hello. Hi. I'm Quinn Daniels. First name sounds like a last name, but it's Quinn. Last name Daniels. New resident, Park Forest. My distant family has always lived in Park Forest, and so this has come a place that I love and enjoy. I am not against cannabis at all. My question is regarding if we do decide to allow dispensaries, what will those funds be used for? I have heard a lot here about the benefits of having dispensaries and how lucrative it is. I'm well aware of that, and I'm well aware that we have government officials and politicians who choose what to do with those funds, and I would really love to know how that money, if we were to do so, would be allocated.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I was late coming to the meeting, Lynette Harris. Will this include medical marijuana in these dispensaries? I'm kind of, if that could be explained. In the dispensaries?
At this time, this is mainly for public comment, and we really don't do deliberation. And on the 22nd of October, that would probably be the best time to get that response. Okay? Thank you.
Ask that lady
The one that spoke over here, that's involved in organizing.
Hi, I'm John. Can I look this up? I feel stupid. No? know what? Forget it. I'll just feel stupid. Hi, I'm Josh. I went to one of the board meetings and someone made the explain that there were some residents in a apartment building that didn't like the increased use because people were already starting to use the cannabis. And I kind of wanted to acknowledge that that is a concern. It should be something we should talk about, but it also should be acknowledged that this is happening in this state. It's going to happen. We have an opportunity to, as other people have put it, get some revenue, work with the taxes there, figure out how they're going to be used, but it's happening. And so I think that as a lot of people start to wonder what that means for where they're living and whatnot, we should be mindful of that consistently and make plans accordingly so that as we continue to see people who might not like marijuana usage, that they have the freedom to voice their opinions, live in a marijuana-free zone, but ultimately that we are being mindful that this is happening, it's coming, it's in the state, it's going to happen. We would be really not smart not to lean into it and just make sure that we are being smart about how we're leaning into it. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment.
Hi guys, I know I was up here before, but I have one more thing that I left out.
And would you give me your name again, please?
I'm Keitha Moore. I'd like to let everybody here know that, like I said, I've been here a long time. I could take you for a ride in Park Forest and show you every drug house that is here already. So let's do a favor to each other and our taxes. Let's shut them down, take their money, and use it for our streets and our pools and our kids and our police so that we can buy some better vests for them and keep them safe for the drug houses we already got.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Ms. Moore. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Leo Porchon. One more comment, because that's just who I am. And basically what I want to say is, this community has always been progressive. This community's always been at the cutting edge. We were a liberal community back in the 60s and the 70s. We embraced change. We were one of the first communities to embrace integration, which was needed, regardless, but it was needed. And we have an opportunity here, and it only comes once. So we can either disregard it and move on and let somebody else have it, or we can really take a look at it, and as has been said, there are guidelines, there are rules, there are laws, everything is on the up and up. It's not going to be anything shady. And finally, because it was brought up earlier, marijuana is a drug. Guess what? Alcohol is a drug. And most people will not include alcohol as being a drug. But marijuana will get lumped with heroin, opium, anything else you want to name. But generally speaking, you don't hear the word alcohol being used as part of the whole drug situation. And as was stated, it didn't work before abolishing alcohol, and it sure has not abolished the use of marijuana by making it illegal. All it does is make criminals out of honest people.
At this time, it appears that we have exhausted the public comments, and I want to get a motion to close the public hearing at this time. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is closed at this time. We appreciate your presence at this public hearing, and we look forward to seeing you October the 22nd. Have a good evening.